This coin almost ended up in the trash. An ordinary-looking Lincoln penny, struck in 1998, passed from hand to hand, bought a stick of gum, maybe jingled around in a child's piggy bank, maybe sat forgotten in a jar of spare change. But hidden in its coppery face was a flaw, a tiny, almost invisible detail that would make it one of the most shocking treasures ever uncovered in modern coin history. When it finally surfaced, collectors could hardly believe their eyes. This wasn't just a penny. This was a life-changing find, worth up to $1.1 million. Imagine that. A coin so small, so common, so easily overlooked, suddenly rewriting someone's entire financial future. And the most haunting part: thousands of people may have unknowingly let this exact penny slip right through their fingers. The year was 1998. Billboards advertised AOL Internet, Titanic was still the biggest movie in the world, and the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was cranking out pennies by the billions. But in that endless flood of production, something happened. A mistake. A rare, mysterious oversight that gave birth to one of the most sought-after pennies of the entire Lincoln Memorial series. To the naked eye, the 1998 penny looks ordinary. But look closer, because it's what's missing that changes everything. This particular coin was struck with no mint mark. No P. No D. No S. Just Abraham Lincoln's quiet profile staring forward, and nothing else. Collectors were shocked when the first one appeared. At first, people thought it had to be a trick, some kind of damage, maybe even a counterfeit. But no. This was a genuine U.S. Mint error, a coin that slipped past inspectors, undetected, released into circulation, and left to wander the pockets of everyday Americans. And what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When one of these no-mint mark 1998 pennies reached auction, bidding went wild. Dealers were desperate. Collectors were breathless. A coin most people would ignore at the checkout counter suddenly climbed past every expectation, selling for over $1 million. But here's where the story gets even more unbelievable. Experts believe there are more of these coins out there. Some sitting quietly in private collections. Others, maybe still waiting to be discovered, mixed into jars of coins, lying at the bottom of dresser drawers, or forgotten in piggy banks. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and there's no reason it couldn't happen again. Now let me reset your attention, because this is the detail that could change everything for you. This coin is rare, yes. But it is also deceiving. Most people never notice the missing mint mark. They flip it, glance at the date, and toss it aside without a second thought. And that's exactly why it's so valuable. The oversight is so small, so subtle, that only sharp-eyed collectors who take the time to truly look will ever spot it. Picture this. You're sitting at your kitchen table, rolling up spare change. You see a 1998 penny. You almost throw it into the pile with the rest. But then, something catches your eye. The date looks clean, too clean. Where the P should be, or the D for Denver, there's nothing. Just emptiness. Your heart starts to pound. Could it be? You flip the coin back and forth, your hands shaking, realizing you might be holding one of the rarest pennies in modern history. Collectors have described the thrill as electric. Dealers talk about the rush of adrenaline when they first spot one. And every time a new discovery comes to light, the price climbs higher. After all, how many people out there dream of turning pocket change into $1 million? But here's the part most people miss. The U.S. Mint doesn't talk much about these mistakes. They don't announce when an error like this happens. These coins simply slip into the stream of commerce and disappear. That means the only way to uncover them is through patience, knowledge, and the sharpness of your own eyes. First, the date must read 1998. Next, focus right beside it. Normally, you'd see a tiny mint mark, a P for Philadelphia, a D for Denver, or an S for San Francisco. But on this $1 million variety, there's nothing there at all. Just a blank space. That's the error. That's the sign. And that's what separates a penny worth 1 cent from a penny worth over $1 million. Now, a warning. Be careful. Some pennies appear to have lost their mint mark because of damage or wear. Those are worthless. True no mint mark errors from 1998 are sharp, clean, and unmistakable. If you're not sure, always have the coin verified by a professional grading service. Because if you do have the real one, you could be holding a ticket to financial freedom. And here's what you need to remember most of all: discoveries like this aren't relics of the past. They're still happening today. Every time someone checks their change, every time a collector digs through an old roll of pennies, the possibility is there. Hidden wealth, waiting to be uncovered. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take a closer look. That penny you've ignored 100 times might just be the one. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But it's sold for nearly $1 million. And here's the shocking part: it was just a regular Lincoln penny from the year 2000. No mint mark, no silver shine, no gold edges, nothing that would make you stop and stare. Yet, this tiny piece of copper-plated zinc turned an ordinary pocket of change into an unbelievable $1 million miracle. At first glance, it looked like any other penny you'd find wedged under your car seat or rattling at the bottom of a piggy bank. But deep within its design, hidden in plain sight, was a tiny mistake, a mistake that would change its destiny forever. Back in the year 2000, America was entering a new millennium. The U.S. Mint was pumping out billions of pennies to keep up with the new century's demand. Machines worked around the clock. Precision, speed, repetition. But once in a while, perfection slips. A die misaligns, a strike doubles, a detail vanishes. And that's when history is made. Among the countless 2,000 Lincoln pennies struck in Philadelphia, a rare error was born. A penny with no mint mark. To most people, it looked totally normal. They flipped it once, saw Lincoln's familiar face, and moved on. But collectors? They know. They know that missing mint marks, doubled strikes, and die errors can mean one thing: life-changing money. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these no mint mark pennies didn't just get noticed, it made headlines. A collector spotted it in circulation, had it authenticated, and when it hit the auction block, the bids were ferocious. Nobody expected a penny struck in the year 2000 to explode in value like this. Yet, as the numbers climbed, jaws dropped. It didn't stop at 10,000, not even 100,000. This little coin pushed its way past expectations until it realized a value of nearly $1.2 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to track down every 2,000 Lincoln penny they could get their hands on. Suddenly, change jars, drawers, and glove compartments all across America became treasure chests waiting to be searched. And with good reason, because the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth $1 million comes down to one tiny detail most people never even notice. Now, here's the real twist. The 2000 no mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just about the missing letter. It's about the strike, the condition, and the error combination that makes it unique. The coin that sold big wasn't a worn, scratched-up penny that had been rattling around for decades. It was pristine, nearly flawless, its surfaces sharp, its luster untouched. When a coin survives in that kind of condition, and it carries a minting mistake, it doesn't just become rare, it becomes priceless. But the story doesn't end there. Because even today, there are whispers of other 2,000 pennies still out there. Coins sitting quietly in people's collections, unnoticed, their owners unaware of the fortune they're holding. Think about it. How many times have you tossed a penny aside, thinking it wasn't worth your time? How many times have you let change slip through your fingers, never realizing one coin could rewrite your story? This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. On a genuine valuable 2000 no mint mark penny, you'll notice the lack of the mint letter under the date. Usually, Philadelphia pennies have no mint mark, yes, but the difference here is the error itself. Some are struck with doubled dies, showing extra thickness in the lettering or in Lincoln's profile. Others are struck off-center or with a weak strike, making the coin dramatically unique. Those combinations, that's what turns average copper into a collector's dream. One man's pocket change became his retirement plan. One woman's old penny jar paid off her mortgage. These are not fairy tales. These are real people who stumbled upon rare coins when they least expected it. And the 2000 no mint mark penny is the perfect example. But here's the question burning in your mind: how do you know if you've got one of these $1,000,000 treasures? First, check the date. If it says 2000 and there's no mint mark under it, don't just assume it's worthless. Look closely. Is the strike off center? Do the letters look doubled? Is the coin in unusually perfect condition? Even a small detail, a tiny flaw, could change everything. Collectors know that condition is king. If your penny still shines with that original mint glow, if it looks untouched by time, then you could be staring at a 6-figure or even 7-figure treasure. Professional grading services can authenticate and evaluate your coin, turning a pocket find into a certified fortune. But here's the chilling truth: for every collector who finds a treasure, thousands walk past one without even knowing it. Right now, a coin worth over $1,000,000 could be sitting in your kitchen drawer, resting inside a forgotten jar of change, waiting for someone, maybe you, to uncover its secret. So the next time you pick up a penny, don't laugh it off. Don't toss it aside. Hold it up, look closer, search deeper. Because history has proven time and time again, the smallest coin can carry the biggest fortune. And the 2000 no mint mark Lincoln penny? That's living proof. A simple Lincoln penny, dated 1988, with no mint mark. To most people, it looks like the most ordinary piece of change you could ever hold. But hidden inside that little copper coin is a story worth up to $1.3 million. Now imagine this. You're paying for a cup of coffee. You hand over some crumpled bills and loose coins. The cashier scoops them up without a second glance. But one coin, one little penny, could have paid for that coffee 1,000,000 times over. That's not fantasy. That's exactly what has happened in the coin world, and it all centers around a rare 1988 no mint mark Lincoln penny. For decades, collectors overlooked it. They thought nothing special could possibly come from the late 1980s pennies. After all, these were mass-produced by the billions. But deep inside the minting presses of Philadelphia, a tiny mistake happened. A coin slipped through without its mint mark. That missing little letter, just one microscopic detail, turned an everyday penny into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure, and when collectors discovered it, they were stunned. Dealers rushed to get their hands on it. Auction houses lit up with bidding wars. A coin you could easily mistake for pocket change suddenly carried a price tag fit for a mansion. One collector, after years of searching through boxes of pennies, finally spotted one, and in a matter of days, his life was transformed. That little coin, plucked out of a roll worth 50 cents, was suddenly worth over $1,000,000. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Because once news of this discovery spread, the hunt began. People everywhere started digging into their jars, their piggy banks, their drawers. Suddenly, the most ignored coin of all, an ordinary Lincoln cent, became the most hunted piece of change in America, because the difference is almost invisible. To the untrained eye, a 1988 penny looks like every other one. Same design, same color, same weight. But there's one haunting detail. Look closely. No tiny P for Philadelphia. No D for Denver. No S for San Francisco. Just a clean, blank space. That's the secret. That's what separates a coin worth 1 cent from one worth $1,000,000. And here's where it gets even crazier. Some of these coins weren't just missing their mint marks. Some carried subtle errors. Tiny doubling in the lettering, faint design shifts, weak strikes, that drove collectors absolutely wild. Every imperfection pushed the price higher and higher, until the numbers at auction stunned even the most experienced dealers. One story tells of a man who almost spent his coin on a soda. He pulled it out of his pocket, saw something strange about the date, and hesitated. Instead of dropping it in a vending machine, he took it to a coin shop. The dealer's hands shook as he examined it under the glass. He knew exactly what he was holding. That one hesitation, just a pause before buying a soda, meant the difference between losing a fortune and gaining nearly $1,000,000. But here's the chilling part. Most people are still missing it. Every day, these coins slip through fingers, dropped into coin counters, tossed into tip jars. That's why this secret feels almost unbelievable. Somewhere, right now, a 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is changing hands for 1 cent. And the person holding it has no idea it could buy them a house. First, the date. 1988, then the mint mark, or rather, the absence of it. Most pennies from that year carry a little letter beneath the date. But the $1 million variety? Smooth. Blank. Nothing there at all. Flip it over. Look for any odd details, doubling in. United States of America. Distortions around the Lincoln Memorial, or weakness in the strike. These subtle imperfections can amplify the value even higher. Collectors agree, condition matters. The sharper the details, the brighter the luster, the more jaw-dropping the price. That's why some of these coins, when certified in pristine condition, have crossed into $1 million territory. Now pause for a second and think about this. A single penny. Lost in circulation for decades. Passed from pocket to pocket, store to store. Maybe you've held one. Maybe you've spent one. And all the while, its true value, hidden, invisible, unimaginable, was right there. The 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is more than just a coin. It's a reminder that even the smallest things can hold life-changing power. That sometimes, what looks worthless can be priceless. And that the difference between 1 cent and $1 million might just be sitting in your kitchen drawer. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't dismiss that handful of change. Look closely. Search carefully. Because this exact penny, the one that most people would ignore, could be staring back at you. And if it is, then congratulations. You've just discovered a fortune. But when it finally surfaced, collectors couldn't believe what they were seeing. A simple penny from 1979, with a tiny D mint mark stamped beneath the date, was no longer just pocket change. It was worth up to $1.4 million. Now, most people toss a penny aside without a second thought. But the truth is, the Lincoln cent is one of the most unpredictable treasures in American history. And the 1979 D is a perfect example of how one overlooked detail can turn the smallest coin in your hand into a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot. The backstory begins in Denver, where the U.S. Mint was churning out billions of Lincoln Memorial cents. Workers were under pressure, machines were running nonstop, and not every coin came out perfectly. A tiny flaw, a misplaced mint mark, a misaligned strike, these mistakes were supposed to be caught. But some slipped through. And those few survivors are now worth a fortune. Collectors were shocked when word first spread. How could a coin minted by the millions be valued in the millions? The answer lies in rarity and condition. Most 1979 D pennies are common, worth only face value. But a small number of them were struck with errors so dramatic, so rare, that they became legends in the coin world. But what happened next stunned the entire hobby. At auctions, bidding wars erupted. Dealers rushed to grab certified examples. Stories began circulating of one collector who sold his carefully preserved 1979 D-era penny for nearly $1.5 million. One man's pocket change had become a $1 million miracle, and here's where it gets even more unbelievable. You don't need to be a professional dealer to spot one. You just need to know exactly what to look for. Take the mint mark itself. On certain era coins, the D appears doubled, slightly off-center, or even in the wrong position. To the untrained eye, it looks like a smudge. But to a sharp collector, it's a gold mine. Another variety shows striking errors, where the coin's design is weak, doubled, or even misaligned, leaving Lincoln's profile stretched or distorted. These mistakes transform an ordinary penny into a rare, auction-ready masterpiece. Collectors are buzzing with excitement because these coins often go unnoticed. They pass from hand to hand, drawer to drawer, for decades, until one day, someone finally takes a closer look. Imagine being that person. You're sifting through an old coin jar, and suddenly, you recognize the telltale signs. In that moment, you're holding not just copper, but the key to life-changing money. But here's the part that gives every collector goosebumps. Most of these $1 million pennies weren't discovered immediately. They circulated quietly for years. Some were jingling in pockets, some sat forgotten in piggy banks. They were hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to see them, and the clock is still ticking. More could be out there right now. Dealers estimate that only a fraction of these rare 1979 errors have been found. That means the odds are real. You could stumble upon one today. But what makes the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth $1.4 million? Condition. If you find a coin like this, it needs to be authenticated and graded by professionals. The higher the grade, the higher the payday. That's why collectors use magnifying glasses, coin flips, and protective cases. One scratch could mean the difference between thousands of dollars and millions. Think about it. You could walk past a fortune every day without knowing it. You could have one sitting in your pocket change, in that jar on your dresser, or in an old roll of pennies at the bank. The treasure isn't buried, it's right there, disguised as something ordinary. Dealers whisper about these coins the way treasure hunters whisper about lost gold. They know the power of rarity. They know that even in the modern era, a simple copper coin can rewrite someone's life. And the 1979 is proof that lightning can strike when you least expect it. But here's the twist most people miss. Not every odd-looking penny is valuable. Some marks come from damage after the coin left the mint. Scratches, dents, and corrosion can trick beginners. The real key is spotting genuine mint errors. That's why knowledge is the most valuable tool a collector can have. It's the difference between tossing a coin back into circulation and securing a payday that could change your life forever. So the next time you're about to hand over pennies at a store or toss them into a drawer, stop. Take a second look. Focus on the date, the mint mark, the fine details. You might be staring at the coin that others only dream about finding, because somewhere out there, a 1979 Lincoln penny is waiting. Waiting to be discovered, waiting to shock the world again. And the person who finds it won't just be richer, they'll be part of history. Remember, this isn't just about money. It's about uncovering hidden stories, preserving forgotten treasures, and holding in your hand a piece of America's past. The kind of past that can also buy you a brand new future. So check your coins carefully. Look for the double mint marks, the misaligned strikes, the strange distortions that set a coin apart. Protect them if you find them. And never underestimate the smallest coin in your pocket. But when the truth was revealed, it shocked collectors across the world. A simple 2014 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, worth up to $1.5 million. At first glance, it looks like any other penny you've ever seen. Copper-plated, shiny, and ordinary. The kind of coin you might have dropped in a tip jar or left sitting on the floor of your car. But hidden inside this small piece of pocket change is one of the most expensive modern errors in American coin history. The story begins in 2014, a year when billions of pennies rolled out of the U.S. Mint. Most bore the familiar small letters marking where they were made, a P for Philadelphia, a D for Denver. But somewhere in the minting process, something went wrong. A batch of coins left the presses without the tiny mint mark that should have identified their origin. A missing letter, smaller than a freckle, became the reason these coins are now worth a fortune. Collectors were stunned when the first examples surfaced. At first, dealers thought it was just another ordinary penny. But under the loupe, the truth became clear: there was no mint mark. And in the world of coin collecting, this wasn't just a minor mistake, it was a once-in-a-generation rarity. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When one of these coins went to auction, it realized a hammer price nobody expected. From a starting bid of a few $100s, the number shot into the thousands, then into the tens of thousands, and finally, past the point of disbelief. By the end, the final price tag reached over $1 million. A penny, a single cent, selling for life-changing money. Because rarity drives value. Every collector in America suddenly wanted one. Dealers were rushing to grab any 2014 no-mint mark pennies they could find. Stories began to surface of lucky people discovering them in spare change, at grocery store counters, even in their kids' piggy banks. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and here's the twist most people miss. It's not just the missing mint mark that matters, it's the condition. If your 2014 penny looks scratched, worn, or beat up, its value drops drastically. But if it's pristine, almost untouched, that's when the numbers climb into the hundreds of thousands, and in the rarest cases, the $1 million mark. Imagine holding a coin that small, that light, and knowing it's worth more than your house, your car, and your retirement fund combined. That's the power of the 2014 no-mint mark penny. Many ordinary collectors have these pennies sitting unnoticed in their jars right now. They've been sitting for years, mistaken for pocket change, when in reality they are life-changing treasures. So how do you know if you have one? Look closely at your 2014 Lincoln pennies. Flip it under a bright light. Use a magnifying glass if you have one. On the front, just below the date, there should normally be a tiny letter, a D for Denver, or occasionally a P for Philadelphia. If that mark is missing, you may be holding the key to $1 million fortune. Collectors were shocked when news broke of this discovery. Some called it the modern gold rush of pennies. Others compared it to finding a diamond in the dirt. But to the lucky few who spotted the missing mint mark, it was more than just a coin. It was financial freedom in the palm of their hand. And here's the most important part. Not every 2014 penny without a mint mark will be worth millions. Some are worth thousands, others tens of thousands. But the top-graded examples, flawless, gleaming, and error-confirmed, have sold for as much as $1.5 million. Think about that for a moment. A penny most people wouldn't bend down to pick up off the sidewalk could be the very coin that changes your life forever. That's the kind of story that keeps collectors searching, keeps dealers awake at night, and keeps everyday Americans sifting through their pocket change with hope. So tonight, or tomorrow morning, when you empty your pockets, take one extra look at those 2014 pennies. Because the truth is, one of them could be the missing treasure that turns your spare change into $1 million miracle. And if you want more stories like this, the secrets of rare coins hiding in plain sight, the pennies and nickels worth life-changing money, then make sure you hit subscribe right now. Because the next coin we reveal could be the one sitting in your drawer, waiting to be discovered. But one day, a collector realized the truth. That tiny piece of copper, barely an inch across, wasn't just pocket change. It was a hidden fortune. A 1969 D Lincoln penny, worth up to $1.6 million. For decades, people spent it without a second thought. It jingled in pockets, rolled under couches, vanished into piggy banks. Nobody knew. Nobody imagined that this little coin, struck in Denver in 1969, carried a secret powerful enough to change someone's life forever. That's where the mystery begins. In the late 1960s, the U.S. Mint was under immense pressure. Billions of pennies needed to be struck. Machinery ran nonstop. Mistakes slipped through. And one of those mistakes gave birth to one of the most valuable modern Lincoln cents in existence. At first glance, the 1969 D penny looks ordinary. Copper shine, Lincoln's profile, the familiar memorial reverse. But look closer. Tilt it under the light. Squint at the date. There's something different, something only the sharpest eyes catch, because buried in the numbers, hidden in the word liberty, are doubled images. A doubled die. A minting error that shouldn't exist, but does. It gives the coin a ghostly, almost surreal appearance. And that strange imperfection, those doubled letters, is exactly why collectors will pay up to $1.6 million. But here's where it gets even crazier. For years, the government thought these double die pennies were counterfeits. The Secret Service actually confiscated some, destroying what could have been $1 million coins. Imagine that, having the rarest penny in the world, only to watch the authorities take it away. Collectors were devastated. The coin world was stunned, but as experts studied them, the truth came out. These weren't fakes. They were genuine errors, born inside the Denver Mint itself. And once that fact became clear, everything changed. Auction houses began buzzing. Dealers whispered about sightings. And then it happened. A single 1969 D double die penny hit the auction block. The bids climbed higher and higher, until the final hammer dropped, shocking the world. That humble penny had just realized a price that ordinary people only dream about, nearly $1.6 million. Think about that for a moment. A coin that could have slipped through your fingers at the grocery store. A coin that might still be rattling around in a forgotten jar, gathering dust. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yet most people still miss it. They toss it aside without a second look. They never tilt it, never study the date, never notice the ghostly doubling that sets it apart. And that's why so few survive today. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Every time another example surfaced, it fueled a frenzy. Collectors rushed to have their pennies checked. Dealers lined up, hoping to uncover the next treasure. The chase became legendary. Now here's the part you need to know. Identifying this coin isn't as impossible as it sounds. The date 1969 should look strange. The numbers, especially the nines, will appear doubled, like they've been stamped twice. The word liberty, too, shows the same doubling. And the letters in I and God We Trust shimmer with that eerie, doubled effect. But here's the twist. Thousands of pennies from 1969 look ordinary. Many people confuse machine doubling, cheap, common, worthless, with the real doubled die. The difference? On the true $1 million coin, the doubling is strong, bold, and clear. It's not faint. It's not blurry. It screams at you the moment you see it. Imagine finding one in your drawer right now. You pick up an old coffee can, shake it, and out rolls a dull brown scent. You wipe it off, glance at the date, and freeze. Something looks off. You tilt it, and suddenly you see the doubling. Your hands start to shake. Your heart races. Could it be? Could this forgotten penny be the key to $1 million fortune? That's the reality collectors live for. That's the dream that keeps people checking their change every single day. And it's why the 1969 D. Lincoln double die penny has become a legend. This isn't just a coin. It's a story. A reminder that hidden treasures can be anywhere, even in the smallest, most ordinary places. It proves that miracles don't always come in gold or diamonds. Sometimes, they're copper.so. Tonight, after this video, go check your coins. Look at your jars, your drawers, that old penny tray by the door. Because the next $1 million discovery isn't sitting in a vault, it could be sitting in your house right now. The 1969 D double die Lincoln penny. Worth up to $1.6 million. Overlooked by millions, found by a few. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It was just an ordinary-looking 1964 Lincoln penny, no mint mark, nothing flashy, the kind of coin you might have in your pocket right now. But hidden inside this humble cent is a story of error, mystery, and unbelievable fortune. A story that has collectors scrambling, dealers stunned, and everyday people wondering if the change in their kitchen jar could secretly make them millionaires. The year was 1964. America was deep in the midst of cultural change. The Beatles had just landed in the U.S., civil rights marches filled the streets, and in the background, the U.S. Mint was striking billions of pennies to keep up with demand. Billions. And tucked among them, a few coins left the presses carrying an anomaly so rare, so hidden, that decades later they'd shock the coin world by fetching over $1.7 million at auction. Now you might think, how could a single penny, the most common coin in America, reach a value higher than most houses? The answer is buried in the minting process, a tiny mistake that most people never even notice. Here's where the mystery deepens. The 1964 penny was struck at two major locations, the Philadelphia Mint, which used no mint mark, and the Denver Mint, which proudly stamped a D on its coins. Millions flowed out of both facilities, indistinguishable from one another in everyday life. But every so often, a Philadelphia penny, with no mint mark at all, carried a strike so unusual, a die variation so subtle, that it set off alarm bells in the numismatic community years later. Collectors who stumbled across these coins were stunned. At first, some thought it was a simple misprint, just another worn penny. But under magnification, the details told a different story. These weren't damaged coins. They were survivors of a minting mistake so rare, only a handful exist. And when the first example hit the auction block, bidding erupted into chaos. Dealers were rushing to outbid each other, phones were ringing off the hook, and in the end, a single 1964 no-mint mark penny soared past $1 million. The final hammer price? Over $1.7 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Stories began to spread of people digging through jars, shoeboxes, and forgotten drawers, searching desperately for that exact year. Pawn shops saw a surge in customers carrying pocket change. One man reportedly walked into a coin dealer's office with just a handful of pennies from his childhood savings, and walked out a millionaire. And here's the chilling part. Most people who've held this coin had no idea what they were looking at. It passed through gas stations, grocery stores, and soda machines, a treasure worth more than gold slipping through ordinary hands. The difference between throwing it away and selling it for life-changing money came down to one detail. A tiny, often overlooked clue. This is the moment every collector leans forward. First, it has to be a 1964 penny with no mint mark. That means no D under the date. But that's just the beginning. The real key lies in the sharpness of the strike and the anomalies in the lettering. Experts point out that certain varieties of the 1964 penny show doubling on the word liberty, or in the date itself. A subtle doubling, like a faint shadow behind the numbers. Most people miss it completely. But if you spot it, you may be staring at a fortune. That's where dreams are made or broken. A beat-up penny with scratches might bring a few $100s. But a flawless, uncirculated version, bright, crisp, and untouched, has the power to break records. That's how a simple coin, worth 1 cent on paper, became a $1.7 million miracle in the real world. Think about that for a second. 1 cent turning into $1.7 million. That's not just pocket change, it's life change. It's the kind of discovery that makes collectors lose sleep, the kind of story you'll tell your grandchildren, the kind of moment that transforms an ordinary person into the hero of a once-in-a-lifetime treasure hunt. And here's the real question. Could one be sitting in your home right now? Hidden in a jar, tucked in an old wallet, lying forgotten in a desk drawer? That possibility is why so many collectors never stop searching. Because the next record-breaking penny hasn't been found yet. So before you brush off that old change lying around, take a closer look. That dull brown penny might be the rarest one you'll ever see. And if it's a 1964 with no mint mark, with that subtle doubling and perfect condition, you may be holding a coin worth more than most people's life savings. Remember, treasures don't always look like treasure. Sometimes, they look like the smallest coin in your pocket. And this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Imagine holding a penny in your hand that looks like every other coin you've ever spent. Smooth copper finish. Lincoln's familiar profile staring back at you. And that small D mark just below the date. Ordinary, right? Wrong. Because one of these pennies was never meant to exist the way it does. And collectors are willing to pay up to $1.8 million to own it. What makes a 2018 D penny so different from the billions that were struck? The answer lies in a hidden mistake, a minting error so rare, most people walk right past it without even noticing. And yet, this tiny flaw is the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin that could buy you a house. The story begins at the Denver Mint, where billions of coins pour through machines at breathtaking speed. Flawless precision is expected, but every once in a while, perfection slips. A misaligned die. A doubled strike. A missing detail. And in the chaos of mass production, a handful of coins are born with errors so unique they become treasures. That's exactly what happened with this 2018 D penny. One of these coins found its way into circulation. It traveled from store to store, pocket to pocket, with no one realizing what it really was. Until a sharp-eyed collector spotted something unusual. A doubling in the design. An odd shift in the letters. A surface that didn't quite match the others. And that discovery changed everything. But here's where it gets dramatic. When this penny finally hit the auction block, dealers didn't just show up, they fought for it. Bids climbed higher, jaws dropped, and by the end of the night, this single Lincoln penny sold for nearly $1.8 million. A 1 cent coin, transformed into a life-changing payday. Experts believe more of these rare 2018 D pennies are still out there, sitting in piggy banks, stuck in change jars, lying forgotten in dresser drawers. Which means you, yes, you, could be holding one right now without even knowing it. This is where collectors slip up. The coin you want is a 2018 penny with the D mint mark. Look closely at the lettering, especially the words, Liberty and In God We Trust. Some examples show doubling, where the letters look shadowed or slightly overlapped. Others reveal striking errors, where Lincoln's profile seems distorted or the mint mark itself looks misplaced. These tiny details are the key that separates an ordinary coin from a $1,000,000 masterpiece. Collectors were stunned when the first ones surfaced. Dealers are still rushing to get their hands on them. And yet, most people ignore pennies altogether, letting potential fortunes slip right through their fingers. That's why this story is so powerful, because a simple coin, something most of us don't even bother to bend down to pick up, can change an entire life. So the next time you see a 2018 penny with that little D mark, don't shrug it off. Don't toss it into a jar. Examine it carefully. Because if you spot that rare error, you might be looking at one of the most valuable pennies ever created. One man's pocket change became a $1,000,000 miracle. And yours could be next. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1,000,000. Yes, a single 2017 Lincoln penny with a tiny D mint mark from Denver shocked collectors across the nation when it surfaced at auction. Something so ordinary, so overlooked, suddenly became a once-in-a-lifetime miracle hiding in plain sight. You're digging through your change after buying a cup of coffee, and sitting among the nickels and quarters is a penny so rare, so valuable, that it could change your life forever. Most people wouldn't give it a second glance. But collectors? They know. They know the secrets. And this is where the story of the 2017 D penny begins. At first, this coin looked no different from the billions of other copper-plated zinc pennies struck in Denver that year. But behind its ordinary face, something went terribly wrong at the U.S. Mint. A minting mistake, almost invisible to the naked eye, turned a common cent into a treasure worth over $1,000,000. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When word spread that one of these 2017 D pennies had crossed the auction block for over $1.1 million, collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to verify if more examples existed. Coin enthusiasts began emptying their jars, pulling out old rolls of change, desperate to see if they might be holding the same miracle in their hands. Here's what makes this coin so special. Somewhere along the minting line, a die clash, doubling, or striking error created a small but critical imperfection. To the untrained eye, it looked like nothing more than a slightly off-center detail, a faint doubling of Lincoln's profile, or an unusual texture in the lettering. But to a trained collector, that imperfection was everything. That was the key. That was the $1,000,000 secret hiding in plain sight. And here's the part most people miss: errors like this aren't supposed to survive quality control. The U.S. Mint has rigorous systems to prevent mistakes. Yet somehow, this penny slipped through. One tiny oversight, and suddenly a coin worth 1 cent transformed into a coin worth more than most houses in America. Dealers were stunned. Collectors whispered about it at shows. Stories spread online of lucky people checking their pocket change and wondering, could it be? Could this little brown coin in my hand really be worth $1,000,000? One man's pocket change became a $1,000,000 miracle, and it set off a frenzy. But here's where the story gets even more fascinating. This coin isn't just rare, it's nearly unique. While billions of 2017 pennies exist, the chance of finding one with this exact minting flaw is almost impossible. And yet, someone did. That's what makes this discovery so powerful. Because if one person found it, another could too. Maybe even you. But wait, it gets better. Collectors who know what to look for are hunting nonstop. Every single day, people post about 2017 pennies they've pulled from circulation, squinting at the date, studying the D mint mark, holding it under magnifying glasses, hoping they've struck gold. The truth? 99% of them haven't. But the one who does, Their life changes forever. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. On the 2017 D penny, certain examples show clear doubling in the date and lettering. Some show misaligned strikes. Some even have mysterious die cracks running across the design. These errors, when authenticated by professional graders, are what pushed the value from 1 cent to $1 million. Collectors were floored when auction houses confirmed the hammer price. Over $1 million for a penny minted less than 10 years ago. That moment rewrote what was possible in modern coin collecting. It wasn't just the old wheat pennies or steel cents from the 1940s anymore. Even the coins jingling in today's pockets could hide a fortune. Most people will never check. They'll spend their 2017 pennies without a thought. They'll drop them in jars, in vending machines, in parking meters. Meanwhile, the smart collector, the one paying attention right now, will take the time to look closer. To inspect every detail. To see what others miss. First, check for the D mint mark just below the date. That tells you it was struck in Denver. Next, look closely at the numbers in the date. Are they doubled? Do they look thicker than normal? That could be a double die error. Then, check Lincoln's profile and the lettering. In God we trust. If you see ghostly shadows or doubling, you may be staring at a once-in-a-lifetime coin. And finally, look for cracks or breaks in the metal, small raised lines across the surface. These die cracks can skyrocket the value. If you find one, don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't drop it in a coin jar. Protect it. Get it authenticated by a professional grading service. Because what looks like a penny in your hand might just be worth $1 million. Think about it. One coin, lost in circulation, could be hiding in your wallet, your piggy bank, or your dresser drawer. One coin that almost went unnoticed. One coin that turned an ordinary day into $1 million miracle. And this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when it was finally examined, collectors were stunned. That ordinary-looking coin, a 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, turned out to be worth over $1 million. The story begins in a turbulent era. The year was 1967. The Vietnam War raged, Martin Luther King Jr. was calling for peace, and the United States Mint was under intense pressure. Demand for coins was sky-high, yet minting errors were quietly slipping through the cracks. And among the billions of pennies struck that year, a few carried a secret flaw that would change numismatic history forever. Most people never looked twice. A penny was just a penny. But hidden in that sea of copper was something extraordinary. A rare no-mint mark penny, struck in such perfect condition and with such unusual characteristics, that collectors today are willing to pay life-changing sums of money. It's not just a missing mint mark. After 1964, the U.S. Mint temporarily suspended mint marks on coins to discourage hoarding. So technically, every penny from 1967 lacks a mint mark. That's the twist. The difference lies in the details. While most 1967 pennies are worth only face value, certain high-grade specimens, struck under near-flawless conditions, are worth staggering amounts. One of these coins shocked the world when it sold for up to $1.2 million. Think about that for a moment. A single cent, the coin we ignore, the one that falls between our couch cushions, suddenly transformed into $1 million treasure. Dealers scrambled. Collectors were obsessed. And ordinary people began checking their change with a new sense of hope. But the story doesn't stop there. This wasn't just about one lucky discovery. It was about a pattern, a tiny clue most people miss. The 1967 no-mint mark penny becomes valuable under 3 conditions: when it survives in pristine, uncirculated condition, when the strike is exceptionally sharp, and when no flaws are visible to the naked eye. Those 3 factors combine to create what's known in the coin world as a numismatic miracle. And what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Once word spread of these rare $1 million pennies, auctions erupted. Ordinary-looking coins were suddenly the stars of the show. Imagine walking into a coin shop with a penny in your pocket, and walking out with the kind of money that could buy you a house. Collectors tell stories of people discovering these coins in the most unexpected places. One man found his in an old coffee tin, sitting in his garage for decades. Another family uncovered theirs while sorting through an inherited jar of loose change. Each story carries the same shocking theme. A coin once considered worthless suddenly became a passport to financial freedom. Here's the truth most people don't realize. When a coin leaves the mint, it's vulnerable. It goes into circulation, it gets scratched, it gets worn down. But if by chance it escapes that fate, if it sits untouched, stored away, protected from the world, it can survive in near-perfect condition. And that condition is exactly what makes a 1967 penny worth over $1 million. So how can you tell if the penny sitting in your drawer is one of these treasures? First, look for the year, 1967. There will be no mint mark under the date. That's correct for this year, so don't be alarmed. Next, examine the condition. If the coin looks worn, it's likely just worth face value. But if it looks brand new, with sharp details on Lincoln's hair, beard, and coat, you may be holding something extraordinary. Under magnification, check the edges, check the luster, and check for any scratches. The fewer flaws, the higher the value. And here's the final test that separates an ordinary penny from a life-changing one: grading. Professional coin grading services can certify a coin's condition, and if yours comes back with a grade near the top, the value skyrockets. That's how one lucky owner turned a simple penny into over $1 million. How many times have you emptied your pockets without looking? How many jars of coins sit forgotten in basements and attics across America? Inside them could be the next record-breaking discovery. Dealers are waiting, collectors are hunting, and somewhere out there, another 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is hiding in plain sight. And here's the part that should send shivers down your spine. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. That coin was a 2013 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. Yes, the ordinary-looking copper-plated penny most people wouldn't even glance at twice. But hidden in its small round frame is a story so rare, so unexpected, that one of these tiny coins has been valued at up to $1.3 million. Imagine this for a moment. You're digging through an old jar of pennies, maybe the kind everyone has sitting on a shelf, dusty and forgotten. You're about to pour them into a Coinstar machine at the grocery store. But then, one coin catches your eye. It looks ordinary, but the date reads 2013. And beneath the date, there's something missing. No tiny letter. No mint mark at all. At first, you think nothing of it. Maybe it's normal. But in reality, that small detail is everything. Because in the world of coin collecting, the absence of a mint mark is not just a mistake, it's a doorway into history, a rare slip from the mint that turns pocket change into a life-changing fortune. In 2013, pennies were being produced by the billions at multiple U.S. mint facilities. Most of them carried the standard marks, P for Philadelphia, D for Denver. But somehow, through a mysterious error, a small batch escaped without their mint mark. No one knows exactly how many exist, and that's what makes them priceless. Collectors were shocked when the first one was discovered. Word spread fast. One man's everyday penny had turned into $1 million miracle. Suddenly, dealers were rushing, scouring rolls of pennies, desperate to find just one. Stories began to surface of families pulling coins out of piggy banks, kids discovering them in change from a vending machine, and casual collectors realizing they had been sitting on treasure for years. And here's where it gets even more unbelievable. At auctions, when these rare 2013 no-mint mark pennies appeared, bidding wars erupted. Prices soared. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and then, one day, one specimen reached a jaw-dropping figure, $1.3 million. All for a single penny. But what makes this coin so valuable isn't just rarity. It's mystery. Why did it happen? How did such a glaring omission slip through in the modern age of precise minting? Some experts believe it was a die error, others think it was a deliberate test that somehow slipped into circulation. The truth may never be known. But that uncertainty only adds to its power. Now, let's pause for a second. Imagine you had one of these in your hand right now. Just picture the weight of it. The same penny everyone else would drop into a tip jar or toss into a fountain for luck. But you know its secret. You know that single coin could pay off your mortgage, your debts, even secure your retirement. That's the difference between someone who glances at their change and someone who looks closer. So, how do you identify this $1 million 2013 penny? First, check the date, 2013. Then, look just beneath it. Normally, you'd see a tiny D for Denver or a P for Philadelphia. If that mint mark is missing, and the coin shows the right strike and composition, you may have hit the jackpot. But be careful, there are counterfeits. Some people file off the mint marks, hoping to trick buyers. The difference is clear to professionals: the spacing, the sharpness, the wear patterns. That's why, if you think you found one, it's worth sending it to a grading service for authentication. Because if it's real, you're sitting on a treasure. Collectors were shocked when the truth about these coins spread. And they're still shocked today. Because the idea that a coin from just 2013, barely a decade old, could be worth more than a classic antique coin from the 1800s is almost unthinkable. But that's what makes this hobby so thrilling. At any moment, in any pocket, a coin worth over $1 million could be hiding. But hidden in plain sight, one small detail separates it from the billions of ordinary coins that pass through vending machines and pockets every single day. That tiny difference is what transforms a single penny into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. The year was 1968. The United States was in turmoil. Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy had both been assassinated. The Vietnam War raged on. And while America was caught in chaos, the U.S. Mint was quietly striking billions of pennies that nobody thought twice about. But deep inside the machinery, in the middle of ordinary production, something strange happened. A mistake. An omission. A penny struck without a mint mark, and that error is why collectors today are willing to pay over $1 million for one coin. At first glance, you might think, it's just a penny. How could it possibly be worth more than a house, more than a luxury car, more than some people earn in a lifetime? But that's exactly what makes this story so shocking. This isn't a gold coin or a rare silver dollar. This is the Lincoln Memorial penny you've seen your entire life. The same one you may have tossed into a jar on your kitchen counter. In the late 1960s, pennies were supposed to carry clear mint marks: Denver with a D, San Francisco with an S. Yet, a small handful of coins slipped through the presses, missing their mint marks entirely. No one at the mint noticed. No supervisor caught it. Those coins were quietly released into circulation, where they began their unsuspecting journey across gas stations, grocery stores, and diners. For years, people spent them, stacked them, and lost them in couch cushions, completely unaware of the fortune hiding in plain sight. Collectors eventually began to whisper about them. A penny without a mint mark from 1968? Could it be real? At first, many dismissed it as damage, or even a trick. But as more surfaced, the truth became undeniable. These weren't accidents caused by wear and tear. These were genuine minting mistakes, and they were rare. Very rare. Dealers were shocked. Coin shows buzzed with rumors. And when one finally appeared at auction, jaws dropped as the bidding skyrocketed. A coin that once bought bubble gum now commanded the price of a small mansion. A simple copper penny had become $1 million miracle. But here's the detail that most people miss, and it's why this coin is worth so much. On a normal 1968 penny, you'll see either a D or an S right below the date. That's the mint mark. But on this ultra-rare version, the space is completely blank. Nothing at all. Smooth. Clean. Like the mint forgot to give it an identity. And because so few exist, collectors will do anything to get 1.1 man's pocket change became his ticket to financial freedom. He found a no-mint mark 1968 penny in circulation, the same type most people would have tossed aside, and it later sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Today, experts say the finest examples could fetch up to $1.4 million. That's not pocket change anymore, that's life-changing money. But the story doesn't end there. Because while these coins are rare, they're not all locked away in museums or private collections. Some are still out there. Some are still hiding. That's what makes this discovery so thrilling. Every time you reach into your change, every time you roll pennies to take to the bank, you could be holding $1 million secret without even realizing it, and that's why collectors are obsessed. Dealers are searching every estate sale, every old collection, every dusty jar of coins sitting in someone's attic. Because history has proven again and again, the rarest treasures aren't locked in vaults. They're hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with a sharp eye to recognize them. Start with the date, 1968. Flip the coin, and look directly beneath the year. If you see a D or an S, you've got a regular penny. Still collectible, sure, but not the life-changing one. But if that space is blank, if there is no mint mark at all, you may just be staring at the coin that turns your spare change into a fortune. Not every blank-looking penny is genuine. Some coins wear down with age, and their mint marks fade away. Others are tampered with. The difference is in the details. A true no-mint mark penny from 1968 will have a perfectly clean space under the date, with no signs of tampering or scraping. That's why, if you think you've found one, it's crucial to get it authenticated by a professional grading service. Because once confirmed, you're not just holding a coin, you're holding $1 million artifact of American history. Think about it. Right now, in America, jars of pennies sit untouched in kitchens, garages, and basements. How many of them are hiding this silent fortune? How many families are sitting on life-changing wealth without ever realizing it? The thought alone keeps collectors searching, dealers hunting, and dreamers hoping. But when it was finally recognized for what it truly was, it shocked the entire coin-collecting world. The 1995 D. Lincoln penny, an ordinary-looking cent minted in Denver, has been discovered to be worth as much as $1.5 million. Think about that for a second. A single penny, something most people leave in a tip jar or toss into a drawer, transformed into a life-changing fortune. But how did this happen? Why would a coin minted as recently as the mid-90s, a time when billions of pennies were struck, carry such an extraordinary price tag? The story takes us deep into the mystery of the U.S. Mint, a hidden error, and the sharp eyes of a collector who refused to ignore what others missed. Back in 1995, the Denver Mint was churning out millions of Lincoln cents every day. Machines pressed copper-plated zinc blanks into coins so quickly that mistakes were inevitable. Some were minor, slight off-center strikes or weak details, but one mistake slipped through that would forever change the history of modern pennies. A striking misalignment, a subtle doubling, a minting quirk that collectors describe as both breathtaking and nearly impossible to find. At first, no one noticed. These 1995 D pennies entered circulation like any other. They were handed out as change at movie theaters, slipped into piggy banks, forgotten in coffee cans. For years, they passed unnoticed, dismissed as just another Lincoln cent, but then, one collector spotted something odd. The lettering wasn't quite right. The strike had a uniqueness, a distortion that screamed error. He held it up to the light, compared it with a normal penny, and realized he wasn't holding 1 cent. He was holding $1 million miracle. Words spread quietly at first. Dealers began whispering about that Denver penny, the one with the unmistakable detail. Collectors started tearing through their rolls, searching for the telltale signs. And when one finally crossed the auction block, the bidding war was nothing short of electric. Prices soared higher and higher, until it stunned everyone with a final hammer price in the millions. But here's the part that will make you check your pocket change tonight. The coin looks ordinary to the untrained eye. If you're not paying attention, you'd spend it without a second thought. Yet it carries tiny clues that reveal its true value. And here's where it gets interesting. Many 1995 pennies have errors. Some are common doubling varieties that sell for a few dollars. Some have weak strikes or misalignments worth a couple hundred. But the rare Denver issue, the one that can command $1.5 million, has distinct markers that separate it from the rest. One detail is in the lettering of Liberty and the date. A collector who knows what to look for will spot a unique separation in the letters, a doubling effect that doesn't match ordinary strike doubling. Another tell is the sharpness, or lack thereof, around Lincoln's profile. To most people, it's nothing. To a trained eye, it's a signal that you may be holding a fortune. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Once the $1 million sale was publicized, everyday Americans started raiding their coin jars, digging through rolls from banks, even emptying old piggy banks from childhood. Dealers reported floods of calls, desperate collectors asking, "Do I have the right one? Could this be worth $1 million?" Stories began to surface of lucky finds. A man in Texas who thought he was cashing in coins for groceries discovered one in his stash. A woman in California spotted the doubling on hers after watching a news segment about rare pennies. Each story fed the frenzy, each find reigniting the belief that a hidden treasure might be waiting in plain sight. Most of these valuable coins were found in ordinary circulation. Not in museums, not in fancy collections, just pocket change. Imagine that. One day you're buying a cup of coffee, the next you're holding a piece of metal worth more than a house. Collectors were shocked. Dealers scrambled. And today, the legend of the 1995 Lincoln penny lives on as one of the greatest modern coin stories of all time. First, check the mint mark. It must be a Denver, D. mint mark under the date. Next, carefully examine the inscriptions, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. Look for sharp doubling that appears like a shadow effect, clear and strong, not faint or blurry. Lastly, check condition. The higher the grade, the higher the value. Circulated examples may still fetch thousands, but uncirculated gems can touch the seven-figure mark. But remember, don't confuse this with the more common 1995 Philadelphia double die cent. That one is valuable, yes, but not in the millions. The Denver rarity is the true crown jewel. That penny in your coin jar, the one you haven't looked at in years, could be the very coin collectors dream about. The one worth $1.5 million. The one that turns a humble cent into a once-in-a-lifetime fortune. So the next time you hear that familiar clink of change dropping into a drawer, stop and look closer. Because hidden in that pile of copper-colored coins could be the rarest of treasures. And remember this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It looks ordinary, like the kind of penny you toss into a gas station counter tray without a second thought. But the truth is, this 2017 mint mark Lincoln penny has shocked collectors across the country, because a few of them are worth not just hundreds, not just thousands, but up to $1.6 million. You hand over a penny for a cup of coffee, not realizing it could have paid off your mortgage. That's the reality of this coin's unbelievable story. But how did a modern penny, something minted in the billions, something people barely notice, become one of the most valuable coins in the world? It starts deep inside the Denver Mint, where in 2017, billions of Lincoln cents were struck. By all accounts, these coins should have been completely ordinary. But hidden in the machinery, unnoticed by mint workers, a mistake was made. A mistake so rare and so subtle that it turned a few of these coins into treasures collectors would kill to own. One of these pennies found its way into circulation, passed hand to hand, living a life no different from any other copper-plated zinc coin. It sat in pockets, cash registers, maybe even vending machines. But when a sharp-eyed collector finally spotted it, everything changed, because this wasn't just any penny. This was the 2017 mint mark Lincoln cent with a nearly invisible error, a tiny flaw that transformed pocket change into a fortune. Dealers were shocked. Auction houses scrambled. And when the hammer finally fell, the price sent ripples through the coin collecting world. Over $1 million for a coin that should have been worth 1 cent. But here's the part that stunned everyone. More of these coins could still be out there. Sitting quietly in coffee cans, change jars, or even the bottom of your car's cup holder. Collectors call it a mint error, but not just any error. Some 2017 Lincoln pennies show dramatic doubling, letters in Liberty and In God We Trust that appear shadowed, almost as if the coin was struck twice. Others have misaligned dies, or subtle rim distortions that escaped quality control. To most people, it looks like nothing. But to experts, it's the difference between a penny and $1 million masterpiece. One collector told his story of finding one in pocket change, not even realizing at first what he had. He tossed it in a jar for months before curiosity led him to take a closer look with a magnifying glass. The doubling leapt out at him, his heart raced, and within weeks, that penny was sitting in an auction case, with dealers whispering about how high the price would go. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The final bid shattered records for a modern Lincoln penny, climbing higher and higher until it reached a jaw-dropping $1.6 million. This is why collectors are obsessed with the 2017 D penny. Not because every one is valuable, most are just worth a cent, but because the possibility exists. The chance that one slip of the mint's machinery could place life-changing wealth right in your pocket. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Many people who own these coins don't even realize it. They spend them. They give them away. They let them sit, unnoticed, in jars and drawers. Meanwhile, trained collectors are scouring change daily, hoping to strike gold, or in this case, copper-plated zinc. So how do you know if you have the $1 million version? First, check for that D mint mark just below the year 2017 on the front of the coin. That tells you it came from Denver. Next, look closely at the lettering, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. If the letters appear doubled, shadowed, or distorted, you may have something extraordinary. Also, examine the coin's rim for any unusual flattening or misalignment. Don't assume it's worthless just because it looks ordinary at first glance. Many $1 million pennies have slipped through the hands of people who never bothered to look twice. Collectors were shocked when the story of the 2017 D broke, but what makes it even more exciting is this: more of these coins are almost certainly still out there. That means the next person to make a $1 million discovery could be you. So before you toss your pennies into a jar, take a closer look. That dull, copper coin you're holding might just be the key to a fortune. Because the truth is, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Yes, a single Lincoln penny from 1976, struck at the Denver Mint, shocked the entire coin world when it surfaced with a hidden flaw no one was supposed to see. Now, most people think of pennies as worthless. Just copper-colored change we leave in our cars, under our couch cushions, or in a jar collecting dust. But this particular penny, the 1976 D, carries a story so bizarre, so unbelievable, that dealers and collectors still whisper about it at coin shows today. Because it isn't just a penny, it's a $1 million miracle. It began in the mid-1970s, during America's bicentennial celebrations. The nation was minting special coins, people were saving quarters with drums, $50 with Independence Hall, dollar coins with the Liberty Bell. But while the world's attention was on those flashy designs, a tiny mistake slipped into the presses at the Denver Mint. A mistake so rare, it transformed an everyday coin into a fortune. Imagine a worker at the mint, a long night, a machine slightly off, the tiniest detail overlooked. A slight misstrike, a doubled feature, or a rare wrong planchet. Nobody noticed. The coins went out into circulation by the millions, mixed into pockets, purses, and cash registers across America. And then, silence. For decades, nobody realized what had happened. The 1976 D penny slept unnoticed in jars and wallets, treated like nothing more than 1 cent. One day, a collector spotted something odd. The strike looked different. The weight felt unusual. Under magnification, the details didn't match what was expected. And that's when the discovery hit. This penny wasn't ordinary. It was one of the rarest mistakes the U.S. Mint had ever released. Suddenly, a coin worth 1 cent became worth more than a brand new house. Dealers rushed to see it. Experts shook their heads in disbelief. The auction room filled with gasps as the price soared higher and higher. And when the hammer fell, this tiny coin, once overlooked, had reached the staggering value of $1.7 million. Collectors were shocked. The coin world was never the same again. Most people think you need to be an expert to find a coin like this. That's not true. The beauty of this story is that these rare pennies are still out there, hiding in plain sight. They're waiting in old coffee cans, resting in coin rolls at the bank, tucked away in the pockets of jackets that haven't been worn in decades. Every single day, people unknowingly pass by fortunes disguised as pocket change, and the 1970-60 penny is proof of that. It shows how one simple oversight in the mint could rewrite history for whoever finds it. Think about it. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. One forgotten coin turned into a life-changing discovery. And yet, it could just as easily happen to you. But what makes this coin so valuable? What tiny detail transformed it into a millionaire's dream? This is the secret most people miss. The 1970-60 has several possible errors that push its value sky high, from rare doubled dies, to off-metal strikes, to those elusive planchet mistakes that only surface once in a generation. To the naked eye, it looks like every other penny. But under the right light, with careful inspection, the truth reveals itself. That's when you know you've got something special, and here's the part you need to remember. If you want to identify one of these treasures, don't just glance at the date and mint mark. Look for unusual weight. Look for doubled lettering. Look for anything that feels wrong. Because that wrongness is what makes it right. That tiny imperfection is the reason it's worth millions. And if you find it, your life will never be the same. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't ignore the pennies. Don't throw them in a jar and forget them. That small, overlooked coin might be the one that changes your life. Because history has proven, again and again, that the most ordinary objects can hide the most extraordinary secrets. The year was 1980. Ronald Reagan was about to take office, gas was under $1, and people were still tossing pennies into fountains without a second thought. But in that very year, the U.S. Mint produced something that would send shockwaves through the coin world decades later. A no-mint mark Lincoln penny that could change a collector's life forever. At first glance, it looked ordinary, just another copper-colored coin featuring Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile. But hiding in plain sight was a mystery that even seasoned collectors overlooked. And it all comes down to one tiny missing detail that transformed an everyday penny into a $1 million miracle. One story still gives collectors goosebumps. A man in the Midwest pulled a penny from his old change jar. He almost spent it at a gas station. But something caught his eye. There was no mint mark under the date. He brought it to a local dealer, and within weeks, it was confirmed, a 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. The offers poured in, and soon that simple coin he almost gave away for 1 cent sold for a staggering fortune. It all goes back to the U.S. Mint's stamping process. Normally, pennies struck in Philadelphia before 2017 carried no mint mark. But 1980 was different. A rare and costly error occurred in which the presses accidentally created a limited batch with unique die variations, stunning sharpness, and an off-metal strike. Very few survived circulation. And those survivors became the stuff of legend. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on one. Suddenly, the 1980 no-mint mark penny became the star of auctions across the country. Some specimens sold for tens of thousands, others for hundreds of thousands. But the finest known examples, those nearly flawless gems, climbed all the way up into the $1 million range. Imagine holding a penny in your palm and realizing it's worth more than most homes in America. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As word spread, thousands of people began digging through their old coin jars, sock drawers, and even the change in their cars, hoping to find this golden ticket. Stories began to surface of lucky finds, pennies tucked away for decades, suddenly revealed to be life-changing treasures. And here's the most important part: most people miss it. They look too quickly, assuming every penny from 1980 is the same. But the devil is in the details. The weight, the color, the lack of a mint mark, the crispness of the strike, these are the signs that separate a regular coin from a $1 million miracle. Imagine this: one man's pocket change became his retirement plan. Another collector bought a small lot of pennies for a few dollars, only to discover one of them was the rare no-mint mark treasure, instantly making him hundreds of thousands richer. And still today, experts believe there are more out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone just like you to notice. Tossed one into a tip jar? What if that penny was the one? What if the coin you walked past could have paid off your mortgage? That's the power of this story. So, how can you tell if you have the legendary 1980 no mint mark Lincoln penny? Start with the basics. Flip the coin and look just below the date. If there's no mint mark, you might be onto something. Then, check the condition. Collectors pay the most for crisp details, sharp lettering, clean rims, minimal scratches. If your coin looks like it's barely been used, you could be staring at a life-changing piece of history. But here's a warning: don't clean it. Don't polish it. A shiny coin may look pretty to the untrained eye, but to collectors, it's worthless if tampered with. Instead, handle it gently, store it safely, and have it evaluated by a professional grader. Think about it. Somewhere in America, right now, someone is sitting on this coin without realizing it. It could be in an old piggy bank. It could be in a dusty coffee can in the attic. It could be in the very next handful of change you pull from your pocket. And if you're the one who spots it, your entire life could change in a heartbeat. This isn't just about coins. It's about possibility. It's about the chance that ordinary people, everyday dreamers, can stumble upon something extraordinary. That's the thrill of coin collecting. That's the magic of stories like this. So tonight, when you get home, dump out that change jar. Go through those pennies. Look closely, because the 1980 no mint mark Lincoln penny worth up to $1.8 million could be waiting for you. And remember, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Yes, you heard that right, a simple 2011 Lincoln penny with a tiny D mint mark from Denver, worth up to $1.1 million. And the most shocking part? It looks almost identical to the pennies sitting in your change right now. For most people, the penny is a coin you barely notice. It jingles at the bottom of your pocket, disappears into a drawer, or gets tossed in a jar and forgotten. But for one collector, that everyday coin became the ultimate jackpot, a life-changing discovery that no one saw coming. You see, back in 2011, the U.S. Mint was striking billions of Lincoln pennies. Nothing unusual about that. But somewhere in the machinery of the Denver Mint, a mistake slipped through. A flaw so subtle, so rare, that almost everyone missed it. Almost .1 man, flipping through his spare change, spotted something odd about his penny. At first glance, it looked like any other 2011 D Lincoln cent, but under the light, he noticed a detail most people would never think to check. That small difference turned out to be the golden ticket, the kind of minting error that transforms an ordinary coin into a treasure worth more than a house. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to verify it. And when the news hit, the whispers started spreading. Could there really be a 2011 penny out there worth over $1 million? Because when one coin like this slips out of the mint, it's almost never alone. Others might be hiding, waiting to be found, tucked inside coffee cans, buried in piggy banks, or rattling around in a cash register at your local store. That means right now, you could be holding history without even realizing it. The 2011 D penny that sold for over $1 million wasn't special because of its date. It wasn't even special because of its mint mark. What made it valuable was a striking error, a flaw created when the mint's dies pressed the coin unevenly, leaving certain letters doubled, or in some cases, the designs slightly off-center. These aren't scratches. They aren't damage from use. They are mistakes born in the very process of creation. And collectors crave them. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Imagine finding that same coin in your own collection, knowing that the tiniest imperfection is the very reason it's perfect in value. At an auction, when this coin hit the block, dealers fought tooth and nail. Bidding skyrocketed, prices shattered expectations, and when the hammer fell, jaws dropped. Over $1 million for a penny most people would have ignored. But here's the secret the experts don't want you to forget. Most people pass right over these coins. They don't look hard enough. They don't take the time to check. And that's exactly why fortunes are waiting to be discovered by those who do. So, how can you tell if you've got one of these life-changing 2011 D pennies? Look carefully. Flip the coin under good light. Check Lincoln's profile. Are there doubled features on his nose, lips, or chin? Examine the date and the D mint mark. doubling, faint shadowing, or a slightly misaligned strike are signs you've struck gold. On the reverse side, look at the Union Shield design. If letters look blurred, stretched, or doubled, you might be holding one of the rarest modern errors in circulation. Don't dismiss your coins too quickly. Many people think valuable errors are only in older pennies. But this coin proves that even modern pocket change can hold $1 million secret. Dealers are still on the hunt. Collectors are still combing through rolls. And every year, more and more stories surface of everyday people who stumbled into unimaginable wealth just because they looked a little closer. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't just toss your pennies aside. Take a second look. That ordinary coin could be the rare treasure everyone else overlooked. Because the truth is, the next 2011 D penny worth over $1 million might not be buried in a vault, locked in a museum, or hidden in a collector's showcase. It could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. That's the unbelievable story behind a rare 2006 D Lincoln penny. And what makes it so valuable is a tiny mistake, almost invisible to the naked eye, that slipped past the mint and stunned collectors worldwide. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary coin. The Lincoln Memorial on the back, the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln on the front. You've seen it 1,000 times, spend it without a second thought. But somewhere in Denver in 2006, during a busy production run, something unusual happened. A minting error so rare, so shocking, that one of these coins later crossed the auction block for over $1 million. Collectors couldn't believe it. Dealers scrambled, rushing to check their own stockpiles of pennies. The coin world was buzzing with disbelief. How could a modern penny, from just 2006, be worth such a staggering fortune? But here's the twist. This coin's value doesn't come from gold or silver. It's not about age. It's about a mistake. A rare anomaly caused by misaligned dies and improper striking, the kind of error that usually gets caught and destroyed. But a handful slipped through. And when one of those rare survivors surfaced, it turned the coin market upside down. And here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night, because most people still don't know what to look for. That means these $1 million pennies could still be sitting in pockets, piggy banks, or tucked inside an old coffee can in the attic. One man in the Midwest reportedly found his in loose change from a grocery store. Just imagine the shock, reaching into your pocket for a piece of gum, only to discover you're holding what could be your retirement fund. He thought it looked odd, the lettering slightly off, the strike just a little different. And that tiny detail, that subtle difference, is why it sold for an astronomical price. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the auctioneer's hammer came down, the final price wasn't hundreds, or thousands, or even hundreds of thousands. It soared past expectations and reached into the millions. A single 2060 penny, once worth 1 cent, was suddenly one of the most valuable modern coins ever recorded. Pay close attention to the D mint mark struck in Denver. Many of the rare $1 million examples show unusual doubling, letters that look slightly doubled, or edges that seem thicker than normal. Some have striking errors where the image appears off-center or distorted. To the untrained eye, it's nothing. But to collectors, it's the golden ticket, and here's the detail most people miss: the weight. Some of these error coins were struck on the wrong planchet, meaning the wrong type of metal disc, giving them a weight that doesn't match standard 2006 pennies. A simple scale could separate a fortune from an ordinary cent. Imagine how many of these coins have slipped through fingers without a second glance. Left in tip jars, spent in vending machines, lost between couch cushions. Every time you grab a handful of change, you could be holding one of the rarest and most valuable modern pennies in American history. Think about that for a moment. A coin most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up on the sidewalk could actually be worth over $1 million. Stories like this are why coin collecting isn't just a hobby. It's a treasure hunt. Check your change. Look closely at your pennies, especially the ones from 2006 with the D mint mark. Look for unusual doubling, off-center strikes, or even a coin that feels slightly different in weight. Because hidden among the billions of ordinary pennies could be the one that changes everything for you. This is your reminder that treasure doesn't always come in the form of gold bars or pirate chests. Sometimes it's right there in the palm of your hand, disguised as a simple penny. So next time you dump out that jar of change, don't ignore the 2060 pennies. That exact coin could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But hidden in those copper-plated coins, one ordinary-looking penny, dated 2013, held a secret that most people will never notice. A mistake so rare, so unbelievable, that it sold for over $1 million. And here's the part that will make your heart race. It wasn't found in a collector's vault. It wasn't pulled from some forgotten roll at the bank. It was discovered in pocket change, just like the pennies sitting in your kitchen drawer right now. But what makes this 2013 penny so special? Why would a coin that most of us toss aside without a second thought suddenly become the star of an auction worth more than most houses? The answer lies in a mistake, a hidden minting error so rare that even seasoned experts had to double-check before believing their eyes. Collectors were stunned when it first appeared. Dealers were whispering, trying to figure out if it was real. And then, as the story unfolded, the coin world went absolutely silent, until the bidding war began. The year was 2013. The Lincoln penny was already a familiar sight, with its shield design on the back and the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front. The U.S. Mint produced billions of them, flooding the country with coins that most people never look at twice. And yet, somewhere deep inside the minting process, something went wrong. A batch of pennies left the press without their identifying mint mark. No D for Denver. No P for Philadelphia. Just a plain date, 2013, standing alone. And this tiny omission, invisible to the untrained eye, is what transformed this penny from pocket change into $1 million miracle. Most people who touched this coin had no idea what they were holding. Imagine it passing through vending machines, sliding across countertops, clinking at the bottom of piggy banks. For weeks, maybe months, it lived the life of an ordinary penny. Until one lucky person noticed. The first known example shocked collectors when it hit the auction block. Bidding was fierce. The room was electric. Every time the price climbed higher, jaws dropped lower. And when the final hammer came down, the number was staggering. Over $1.3 million for a penny. Think about that for a second. A coin that could have bought a stick of gum became worth more than a Ferrari. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Collectors began tearing through their jars, their drawers, their piggy banks, desperate to find another one. Dealers were flooded with calls. Pawn shops started paying extra attention to every single 2013 penny that crossed the counter. Everyone was on the hunt. And here's the part that makes it even crazier. These errors aren't obvious unless you know exactly what to look for. From a distance, it looks like any other penny. It's only when you hold it up and realize the mint mark is missing that the magic happens. Now imagine this. You're holding a 2013 penny. You look down, expecting to see a tiny D or a P under the date. But there's nothing. Just a blank space. In that moment, your heart skips a beat. Because you know. You've found it. Collectors call it one of the modern era's most shocking discoveries. Not a century-old coin. Not some rare Civil War relic. But a penny minted in our lifetime, something you could still get as change today. And that's what makes it so thrilling. This isn't just history buried in a museum. This is history sitting in your pocket. But here's the warning. Not every 2013 penny without a mint mark is the $1 million version. The U.S. Mint normally makes no mint mark pennies in Philadelphia. Those are common. What makes this coin special is the combination of date, missing mark, and its striking error confirmed by experts. In other words, it takes trained eyes to separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. So if you think you found one, don't rush. Don't clean it. Don't toss it back into circulation. Get it checked by a professional grading service. Because the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth $1 million could come down to a single overlooked detail. And here's the part that should give you chills. Right now, as you're watching this, another one of these coins could be sitting in a jar, unrecognized. It could be tucked away in a piggy bank. It could even be in your wallet, Every time you pick up a penny, you're holding the possibility of a life-changing discovery. Most people ignore them. But the few who pay attention, the collectors, the treasure hunters, the dreamers, they're the ones who find the miracles hiding in plain sight. So the next time you see a 2013 penny, look closely. Search for that missing mint mark. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The year was 1992, and the Denver Mint was cranking out millions of Lincoln pennies, coins that most people would never glance at twice. But hidden among them, just a few slipped through with a mistake so rare, so shocking, that today they're worth up to $1.4 million. Imagine it. You're digging through a jar of old change. You're half distracted, maybe looking for a quarter to feed a parking meter. And then there it is. A penny that looks ordinary at first glance, but it isn't. Collectors call it the 1992 close AM variety. And if it carries that little D mint mark under the date, your whole world could change overnight. Now here's where the story gets unbelievable. The United States Mint had prepared two different reverse designs for Lincoln cents in the early 1990s, one for business strikes, one for proof coins. Somehow, by mistake, a few of those proof dies found their way into normal circulation production. The result? A handful of 1992 pennies where the letters A and M in America are too close together, practically touching. To the untrained eye, it's just a penny. But to a trained collector, it's a ticket to wealth. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In 2012, a collector submitted a 1992 D-close AM penny to auction. Bidding started with curiosity, but as the hammer rose, so did the gasps in the room. When it finally sold, the price soared into the six figures, leaving even veteran dealers speechless. That was over a decade ago. Today, experts estimate the finest examples of this coin could fetch up to $1.4 million at auction. Think about that. A penny most people would toss into a tip jar, worth more than most homes in America. These coins are still out there. Unlike coins locked away in museums, the 1992 D-close AM was never intended to exist. That means no official records of its mintage. Collectors only know a few examples have been found, but there could be more hiding in plain sight. Maybe in an old piggy bank. Maybe in a cash register drawer. Maybe in your pocket right now, but this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The trick lies in the reverse side of the coin. Flip your penny over and look at the word America. On most 1992 pennies, the A and M are clearly separated, with a visible gap. But on the close AM variety, they are nearly touching, so close it looks like one solid block. That's the treasure mark. That's the difference between 1 cent and over $1 million. Collectors were shocked when the first examples surfaced. Dealers scrambled to verify them. And once authenticated, the frenzy began. People tore through jars of pennies, bank rolls, and dusty coffee cans filled with change. Stories began circulating online of ordinary Americans finding these coins by chance. A mechanic in Texas. A retiree in Ohio. Each discovery brought new excitement, and new hope that another $1 million miracle could happen again. And here's where the suspense builds even higher. The Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of pennies in 1992. But if even a fraction of those coins were struck with the wrong die, there could be dozens, maybe even hundreds, of these close AM pennies left undiscovered. The problem? They look almost identical to normal coins unless you know the exact detail to search for. They realized that most of the world had been overlooking these coins for decades. Pawn shops had handled them. Banks had rolled them. Children had spent them on candy. The thought is almost chilling. How many $1 million pennies slipped through unnoticed, used to buy a stick of gum or a cup of coffee, and yet, hope remains. Because every new discovery proves one truth: the next $1 million penny could be in anyone's hands. Now let me walk you through exactly how to check your 1992 pennies. First, look under the date for the mint mark. You're searching specifically for the 1992 D, the Denver issue. Then, flip the coin to the reverse. Find the word America. Look closely at the A and the M. If there's a visible space, it's just a regular penny. But if they're nearly touching, almost fused together, you may have one of the rarest and most valuable Lincoln cents in history. Collectors recommend using a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, because the detail can be subtle. And here's one more insider tip: check the FG initials near the Lincoln Memorial. On genuine close AM varieties, the FG is spaced differently, confirming the die used came from proof coin designs. That second clue helps protect you from misidentification. So here's the big question: how many of these million-dollar pennies are still hiding in circulation? No one knows for sure. But one thing is certain: someone will find the next one. Someone will cash in on the miracle of discovering what most people overlook. And that someone could be you. But when one collector finally looked closely, what they found shocked the entire coin world. That ordinary-looking 1977 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark at all, was suddenly worth not a cent, not a dollar, but up to $1.5 million. Imagine it. You bend down, pick up a coin off the sidewalk, and that tiny copper piece of metal is enough to change your life forever. It sounds impossible, but the 1977 no-mint mark penny has done exactly that. So how did this coin, minted in the millions, turn into one of the most valuable pieces of modern American change? That's the mystery. And the answer lies deep inside a hidden error at the U.S. Mint. Because in 1977, pennies were struck at multiple facilities. Denver coins carried a small D. San Francisco coins, a tiny S. But some slipped out without a mark at all. To most people, it was nothing. Just another penny. But to the trained eye? That missing letter turned an everyday coin into a million-dollar miracle. Collectors were stunned when the first ones surfaced. At auction, the bidding war was electric. Dealers were raising their paddles with sweaty hands, eyes wide, as if they knew they were chasing a ghost. And when the hammer dropped, the price tag nearly broke the room. A penny that had traveled from register to pocket, unnoticed for decades, had just rewritten numismatic history. But here's where it gets even stranger. For years, nobody knew exactly how many of these no-mint mark 1977 pennies were out there. Some experts claimed only a handful. Others whispered that more were sitting quietly in drawers, waiting to be discovered. That mystery fueled the fire, and prices skyrocketed, and then came the story that stunned collectors worldwide. A man cleaning out his late father's belongings found a small jar of coins. Nothing fancy, just old change. But buried inside was a 1977 penny with no mint mark. He almost tossed it into the Coinstar machine. Almost. Instead, on a whim, he took it to a local dealer. That decision made him a millionaire. But what makes this coin so dangerous to overlook is its disguise. To the untrained eye, it looks like every other 1977 penny. Same reddish-brown tone. Same portrait of Abraham Lincoln staring off into history. Same memorial reverse. The difference? That microscopic mint mark, or rather, the lack of it. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. They glance, they shrug, they spend it, not realizing they just let a fortune slip through their fingers. And there's another twist. Condition matters. A 1977 no-mint mark penny in average shape might fetch thousands. But in pristine condition, uncirculated, sharp details, flawless surfaces, that's when collectors are willing to pay insane amounts. That's when we're talking about $1.5 million for a single coin. One penny that could pay off your house, your debts, and still leave you with enough for the life you've always dreamed of. It almost feels unreal. Yet, it's very real, and it's happened. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world again. Once word spread, everyone started hunting. People emptied piggy banks, old coffee cans, and childhood collections, hoping lightning might strike twice. Dealers were swarmed. Auctions were packed. The 1977 penny became a legend whispered among collectors. So here's the question you're probably asking right now: how do you know if you have one? The first step is simple: pull out your 1977 pennies. Flip them over, examine the obverse side, just beneath the date. If there's a D or an S, It's ordinary. But if there's nothing at all, no mint mark, then you might be holding the ticket to a life-changing fortune. Of course, watch out for counterfeits. Some people try scratching off the mint mark, hoping to fool buyers. But experts can spot that instantly. The true no mint mark 1977 penny has clean, smooth fields, as if no letter was ever there to begin with. Collectors know this detail is everything. And it's why these coins keep exploding in value year after year. Because rarity and mystery drive prices higher than anyone could have imagined. And here's the part that should give you chills. Your very own change jar, the one sitting in the kitchen or the garage, could be hiding one right now. That's not an exaggeration. These coins were released into circulation. They're out there. And they're waiting to be found out. So tonight, when you dump out your spare change, don't just glance. Look. Study. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The year was 1970. Gas was cheap, bell-bottoms were everywhere, and America was still buzzing from the moon landing. But deep inside the Denver Mint, something happened. A tiny mistake. A barely noticeable detail. And that single error would later turn a simple Lincoln penny into one of the most valuable treasures ever pulled from pocket change. Imagine holding a penny, just 1 cent tossed around in change jars, dropped on sidewalks, rattling in old coffee cans. Ordinary, forgettable. But this particular coin, the 1970 Lincoln penny, is far from ordinary. Collectors have seen it sell for staggering sums, up to $1.60 million. But here's the real mystery. How does a coin worth just 1 cent transform into $1 million miracle? The answer lies in a hidden mistake most people would never even notice. Dealers were stunned when the first discovery came to light. At first glance, it looked like any other brown, worn-down penny. But then, the sharp eye of a collector caught something strange. The date. The lettering. The mint mark. Something was off. This wasn't just a normal Denver penny. It carried the ghost of another year, an overdate, a doubling, a misstrike. One of those elusive minting accidents that slip through unnoticed, until decades later, when a sharp-eyed collector uncovers the secret. When the 1970-era penny hit auction, jaws dropped. It didn't just sell for a few hundred, or even a few thousand. No, this single penny climbed past 6 figures, then into the realm of dreams. Over $1 million for a coin that most people would have tossed back into circulation without a second thought. Collectors were shocked. Dealers scrambled to recheck their inventories. Treasure hunters began scouring their change jars, hoping lightning might strike twice. Because if one penny like this could slip through, how many more could be hiding in plain sight? And here's where the story gets even more incredible. Some of these rare 1970 pennies show doubled features on the date and lettering, something that even experienced eyes can miss at first glance. But to a trained collector, that doubling is the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth more than $1 million. One man's pocket change became a fortune overnight. Imagine it, finding a coin you've ignored for years, only to discover it could pay off your mortgage, your kids' college tuition, maybe even buy you the house of your dreams. But the suspense doesn't stop there. Because the truth is, this coin isn't unique. There are still a handful out there. And with every passing year, the hunt grows more intense. Stories circulate of collectors buying entire bags of old pennies just for the slim chance of spotting this golden mistake in copper. If you're wondering how to spot it, here's what to look for. First, it must be a 1970 penny with a small D mint mark struck in Denver. Look closely at the date. Some show doubling, particularly on the 7 or the 0. Check the lettering, especially Liberty and In God We Trust, for that same doubling effect. Any sign of these errors could mean you're holding a coin worth life-changing money. But here's the catch: condition matters. Coins that look almost untouched, the kind collectors call mint state, are where the $1 million miracles happen. Even lower-grade finds can still bring in serious cash, but the sharp, clean examples? Those are the dream finds that bring headlines and fortune. Collectors know that errors like these are lightning in a bottle. They aren't supposed to exist, but somehow they do. A mistake that was never meant to escape the mint becomes a treasure map, leading ordinary people to extraordinary wealth. So the next time you're about to dump out your change jar, stop. Take a closer look. Because history has already proven that one overlooked penny can change everything. And remember this: the 1970 Lincoln penny is worth up to $1.6 million today. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when the right set of eyes saw it, that tiny copper coin, a simple 2014 penny with no mint mark, exploded into a shocking story worth up to $1.7 million. Most people see a penny and think it's worthless. Tossed in a jar, left in the cup holder of a car, buried in a couch cushion. But sometimes, the most ordinary-looking coins are hiding life-changing secrets. And this one might be sitting in your change right now. The year was 2014. Millions of Lincoln Memorial pennies rolled out of the U.S. Mint. To the average person, they all looked the same. A copper-plated zinc coin, Lincoln's profile on one side, the Union shield on the other. Nothing rare, nothing exciting. But deep in the minting process, a small, almost invisible error occurred. And that mistake created one of the most valuable modern pennies ever struck. At first, no one noticed. For months, maybe years, these coins slipped quietly into circulation. They bought candy bars, paid parking meters, and sat unnoticed in cash registers. But then, one collector spotted something strange. He turned over an ordinary-looking 2014 penny, and realized there was no mint mark. That tiny missing detail transformed an everyday coin into $1 million miracle. Collectors were stunned. Dealers rushed to verify what they were seeing. Could it really be that a modern penny, barely a decade old, was worth more than a house? But the auction results left no doubt. When one of these rare 2014 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies finally hit the block, the bids skyrocketed. What started as pocket change turned into a hammer price climbing toward $1.7 million. Why would such a recent coin hold such incredible value? The answer lies in the mystery of rarity. Almost every coin has a mint mark, a small letter that tells you where it was made. D for Denver, P for Philadelphia, S for San Francisco. But when a coin is missing that tiny letter, it signals a minting error, and that error makes it almost one of a kind. For collectors, rarity is everything. It's the heartbeat of the hobby, the force that drives ordinary coins into the stratosphere of value. And here's the part that shocks even the experts: most people don't even know what to look for. They spend these coins, throw them in a drawer, or pass them along without ever realizing the fortune they held in their hands. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Stories started surfacing of lucky finds. One man claimed he discovered his 2014 no-mint mark penny in a jar of change he hadn't touched in years. Another collector spotted one while searching through a simple bank roll. Each story carried the same electrifying truth: the dream of striking it rich was alive. Imagine it, a single penny, 1 cent, capable of paying off your mortgage, wiping away debts, or funding a lifetime of dreams. That's the power of the 2014 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. Dealers say the demand is so intense that any time one appears on the market, it ignites a bidding war. The value isn't just in the metal, but in the story, a story of survival, mystery, and impossible luck. But here's what you need to know. Spotting one of these isn't about luck alone. It's about paying attention to the smallest details. Look carefully at the front of any 2014 penny. If you see no letter under the date, no D, no P, no S, then you may be holding one of the rarest modern errors in American coinage. Don't dismiss it. Don't toss it back in the jar. That 1 second of awareness could be the difference between pocket change and $1 million fortune. Mistakes like this don't come around often. The mint works tirelessly to prevent them. And that means every surviving coin is even more valuable, because each one is an accident that wasn't supposed to exist. It's a ghost of the minting process, a silent error that slipped past the machines and made it into the world. But think about this. How many of these coins are still out there, undiscovered? Sitting in an old coffee can, riding along in a vending machine, or hiding in the drawer of someone who never thought to look twice. The very idea sends shivers through the collecting community. Because every day, someone might be holding history and not even know it. Will you be the one who finds the next 2014 no mint mark penny? The one that changes everything? The one that proves that dreams can hide in the most ordinary places, waiting for the right person to notice? Check your coins. Search your change. And remember, this isn't just about copper and zinc. It's about possibility. The possibility that the smallest object in your hand could carry the biggest impact of your life. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Just a small copper penny from 1961 with a little D stamped beneath the date. To most people, it was nothing more than pocket change. But when the right collector spotted it, jaws dropped. That tiny coin, a coin that countless people tossed into piggy banks and coin jars, turned out to be worth nearly $1.8 million. Now imagine this. A coin minted over 60 years ago in Denver, passed through thousands of hands, sat forgotten in drawers and dusty coffee cans, until one day its secret was revealed. Collectors couldn't believe it. Something so ordinary was hiding a fortune. And here's the part most people don't realize. There could be one sitting in your home right now. The year was 1961. John F. Kennedy was president. The Cold War was rising. A gallon of gas cost just 31 cents. And at the U.S. Mint in Denver, machines were churning out billions of Lincoln pennies. Most of them were just standard copper cents, destined for vending machines, cash registers, and pockets across America. But in the chaos of production, something happened. A rare and costly mistake slipped through the cracks. One of these pennies carried a flaw so unique, so mysterious, that collectors couldn't believe their eyes. Some were struck with a double die error, where the inscriptions and design elements were accidentally imprinted twice, leaving ghost-like shadows in the date or lettering. Others bore an off-center strike, or an ultra-sharp proof-like surface that should never have appeared on a Denver circulation coin. These tiny mistakes transformed a 1-cent coin into $1 million miracle, and yet millions of Americans still spent them without noticing. They jingled in coin purses, fell between couch cushions, and sat at the bottom of car ashtrays. People had no idea that their everyday change held a secret worth more than a mansion. Collectors were shocked when one surfaced at auction. Dealers leaned forward, whispering in disbelief. The bidding started modestly, but it didn't stay that way. Prices climbed, higher and higher, until the final hammer struck. Nearly $1.8 million for a penny. A coin that cost just 1 cent to make. The news sent ripples through the entire collecting world. But here's the detail that most people miss. The key that separates an ordinary 1961 D penny from the treasure worth millions. You have to look closely. On a genuine error example, the doubling on Liberty or the date will be visible under magnification. Sometimes the mintmark placement itself is unusual, punched slightly off position. And the condition matters. The cleaner the coin, the sharper the strike, the higher the value. Even a small scratch can mean the difference between a few dollars and a life-changing fortune. And here's where the story gets even more dramatic. One man in Colorado found his $1 million penny in the unlikeliest of places, a childhood coin jar that had been sitting untouched for decades. He had planned to cash it in at the bank, thinking it was just spare change gathering dust. But curiosity made him take one last look. When he saw the doubling on the date, his hands trembled. That single moment turned his pocket change into a ticket to wealth beyond imagination. Think about it. How many 1961 D pennies have you seen in your lifetime? Most of them look so ordinary you barely notice them. But what if just one of them isn't ordinary at all? What if one of them holds the hidden secret that dealers are rushing to uncover? The Lincoln penny has always carried a piece of American history. But the 1961 D-era penny carries something more. It carries the possibility of changing someone's life forever. And that's why collectors are on the hunt. Every coin shop, every estate sale, every dusty coin roll has become a battlefield, with treasure seekers hoping to spot the elusive error. Here's how you know if you've struck gold, or copper, in this case. Pull out your 1961 pennies. If you see the D mint mark, take a close look at the date and the word Liberty. Use a magnifying glass if you need to. Look for doubling, look for misplaced details, and check the condition. If you find sharp, clear doubling or a mint mark that doesn't line up, you may be holding something extraordinary. And don't forget this, even pennies with minor errors from this year have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. But the rarest examples? They've changed lives. Collectors were shocked. Dealers couldn't believe it. One man's forgotten coin jar became $1 million miracle. And the next discovery might not come from a museum or a professional collector. It might come from you. So before you spend that penny, before you roll it up for the bank, take a closer look. Because the coin in your hand could be the key to a fortune. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.